In today's lessons, we will be talking about certain resource names. Those names will be assigned to activities. Let's suppose this is the project that will take 29 days. It's about renovating the first floor. So these are the activities with their durations, and each has a predecessor. Some of them, like the partition work and the electrical work, will start at the same time in parallel. So they both start on 28th of April. So the total duration is 29 days. So now I need to assign resources to them. So I would click on resource sheets. From here, we enter the resource names. Let's say Joe Smith is one of the resources. And by default, the resource type is work. Now, in resources, we have three types. We have work, we have material, and we have cost. And each one is different. But we can have machines that has the work type. Under material, I cannot enter anything. The initial can be changed. So by default, the computer, Microsoft project, just gave me an initial, J as an initial. I can double click and change it. Say JS. Group. The group is usually used for vendors. I use it for suppliers, for vendors, or to indicate which company that resource belongs to. So let's say he belongs to ABCD company. The unit, the maximum unit, means how much this resource is going to be available for this project. How much of his time. So that's the unit of time. So 100% indicates that this resource is available 40 hours per week. So full time. If it was 50%, then this resource is going to be available 20 hours per week. See, it depends on the country that you're running the project in. Say if you are in Europe, and by the labor law, the full week is, let's say, 35 hours, then 50% would mean 17 and a half hours per week that resource is going to be available. But usually, when we say 100%, it means 40 hours a week. This also should be reflected in the calendar. See, if I click on base here, we would have calendars. So in the calendar, we should have 40 hours per week. If in the calendar we have stated that working hours per week is 35 hours, then 100% here would mean 35 hours. The resource can have a standard rate. So let's say he takes $50 an hour. So I will type 50. I can type $100 per day. I would put /D. So $100 per day, or I would say $500 per week /W. I can change that. And I would say if he's over allocated for the overtime, $100 per hour. We reach the cost per use. Some resources, you would charge them to the project as cost per use. So let's say each time you would use a camera, if you are shooting a movie, if you want to use a camera, then let's say per day, let's say $1,000 per day. I will get back to this one and I will put here 0. And I would 0. So, and this here we have the calendar. When we say prorated, we mean if that person takes, let's say, $500 per week, and if it's prorated, then if that person works 2 days, then he is entitled to $200 a week. That's what prorated means. $500 per week means $100 per day. $100 a day. If that person, Joe Smith, is allocated to one task for 5 days, and then he worked 3 days and then left, well, he is entitled to $300. That's prorated. So he will get as much as he worked. So let's fill in other things. So let's say John, okay, is another type, and I would put here J.D, and he belongs to ABCD company. And let's say John takes $50 per hour. And he is also available 100% of the time. And I'm going to put another thing here. Let's say Dina, and Dina belongs to XYZ company. She's available 50% of the time. And she charges $100 per day. I'm going to use now different types of resources. Let's say hotel. And I'm going to choose the type cost. If you notice here, there are lots of cells which I cannot fill it. I cannot fill it with anything. If I try to type anything under group, I can. Okay, if you notice here, under hotel, I cannot enter anything except maybe group, because Holiday Inn, whatever it is. Okay, other than that, I cannot type anything in here, even if I try to type. And I'll show you why later, because hotel depends on locations. Let's say Joe is working on an activity and he has to stay in a hotel, say in Paris. That hotel would charge €200 per day, per night. Well, if John is working, say, in Cairo or in a different country, and the hotel charge is $100 per day, not €200, because the type is cost, I can assign hotel with different pricing. Material. So let's say electric, whatever, saw. Let's say electric saw is the type material. And I would say the cost per use is $20. So each time I would use the electric saw, I would be spending $20 per use. If I go and try to fill in the activities with resources, if I click under the resources, so erecting walls, and I can choose whoever is going to do this activity. But before that, if I click on project, then I click on project information, it will give me when the project starts and when it will end, and the calendar, and the statistics would show that this is a project that is going to take 29 days in duration. However, because I did not assign resources, so I don't have costs. So the cost is zero. So let's say under resources, I would put for erecting walls, let's say Joe Smith. And if I double click also on it, I can choose hotel, or I can choose it from the drop down list. So I can do it both, let's say here. So because Joe Smith charges $100 per day, and that activity is 10 days, well then the Microsoft project gives me $1,000 per day. Say I'm going to put hotel. From here, a hotel, I can enter the cost of the hotel. Let's say for those 10 days, this is going to cost me $2,000. If I hit OK, so the total is $3,000 so far. If I hit OK and I go to project information, I would go to statistics, it should give me $3,000 so far. And likewise, you would fill in everything.